When I was young, I told my dad I had an imaginary girlfriend. He says, "You can do better." I said, "Gee, thanks, Dad." And he says, "No, I was talking to her."
Grab your favorite beverage and get yourself comfortable. It's Webby Story Time.
Welcome to Webby's Story Time. Tonight I'm going to share with you a funny moment I had while training with Jazz Staff as a teenager. Jazz Staff is an acronym standing for Japan Self-Defense Forces. And I'll give you a little background. Let's go back to 1969. I was 8 or 9 years old, 8 turning 9. Anyway, my dad was in the Air Force for 22 years. And it was during this time, 1969, we were shipped overseas to Japan, where we were assigned to Tachikawa Air Base initially, and then moved to Chofu Air Force Base. So anyway, here's what happened. Living in Hawaii as a tiny little kid, I mean, I was always one of the smaller kids, and there was a thing in Hawaii back then called Slap the Jap Day. Every December 7th, you can expect you're going to get hit, punched, slapped, whatever else. But for me, being one of the smaller kids in elementary school, it was kind of, it didn't take a special day. I mean, it was just random. I remember walking to or from school and getting jumped and beaten. While playing on the playground, I'd get jumped and beaten by some kids there. And it wasn't something that was officially approved. I mean, this thing, Slap the Jap Day, it was just a few prejudiced kids who picked on smaller kids like me. So anyway, back then it was always, parents would tell the kids, get out there and play, get out of the house, and we'd come back when the lights come on. And I just never knew if I was going to have a good day out there with the neighborhood kids or if I was going to have one of those days where I'm just beaten senselessly. So anyway, 1969 comes around, we were being shipped back overseas, and surprisingly, even in Japan on a military base, even though it's much less, it's more of a rare occurrence, I'm still getting beaten on just for my ethnicity. So I guess my dad got tired of me coming home all busted up. So somehow he had got me into one of his friends' class, karate class. His name was Alan. And this class was the bomb.com. I loved training with this guy, and he taught me, got me started in the more aggressive arts. At 5 years old, my dad had my older brother and sister and I in a judo class, so I was familiar with that at least. But never learned how to block, dodge, punch, things like that, and kick. So this was something new, and I enjoyed it. But I trained with him, and then one day the classes ended. The only thing I can figure is, he got shipped out, PCS, which is a permanent change of station. Never saw him again. But somehow, either he or his teacher, who was a Japanese national, or my dad, somebody arranged it where I could train a couple days a week with Jazz Staff on Fuchu, which was an army base. And so twice a week I would jump on the shuttle bus, and I thought this was the coolest thing, just a kid. I can get on a bus and ride off from one base to the next. And yeah, that was a lot of fun. But I would go out there twice a week, and this is after school, and train with these soldiers. And that was really cool. And they thought it was really cool to have an American teen, especially of my ancestry as being Japanese by ethnicity, who could barely speak the language. But it was really cool. They kind of took a liking to me. I felt the love, and all that. But it was really cool training with them. These guys are hardcore because this was not a community class or, things like that. This was combat training. So they got really intense. It was a hard workout. I was very healthy and very able-bodied at 12 years old at this point. And but I would come home bruised, exhausted. It was that intense. And I want to share. I give you this background just so you know. That's how I ended up with this group of men, and it was really cool because in this class we had this ginormous. I had never seen a punching bag this big. It had to be 300 plus pounds, but they had it suspended from a girder. See, I know some construction terminology, y'all. Anyway, they had this set up there as part of the equipment. So we trained, not only karate, but grappling and with fake weapons, like guns and knives, clubs, things like that. So nobody got hurt. But it was really cool because I would see these guys, work out with this punching bag. Like I said, I never saw a punching bag this big before. So, being a young guy, of course, I loved it when it was my turn. We got up there and we started punching away at this thing. That was so much fun. But this one particular night, there's a focus on kicking. So the whole class lines up. I'm in the middle of this line, and they take turns. They go up there and they kick the bag a few times, and then the next person goes up. Finally gets to my turn. I'm watching that because these guys are kicking this bag and they are folding this bag, bending it over like that, 45 degrees, not just a tiny bit. And this bag's been moving. It's swaying around on this heavy chain. And so I decided while I'm in line waiting my turn, I said, I am going to put on a show for these guys. I had only recently became aware of who Bruce Lee was. And so I had gotten his, persona down to a certain degree. So I'm in this class, I get my turn. So I'm putting on my best Bruce Lee stance and getting for a side kick, getting it all ready. I'm playing it up. I'm doing the sound effects and everything. So the place goes quiet. Everybody's watching me. I can feel every eye on me. I guess that was foreshadowing I was going to be an actor, right? Because I loved it. Anyway, I finally prepare myself. I am laser focused on that bag, and I'm getting so ready. And finally, I make my move, customary Bruce Lee sound effects and everything, and I hit that bag, everything I had. I hit it so hard, I flew back. And I fell to the floor. I tumbled over a few times. And I can picture what my expression on my face was because I was thinking, and I still remember this, as I flew back, I was thinking, what the heck? And I'm not saying heck was the word that was actually going through my mind, but it was along those lines, all right? But there's dead silence for about a second. Then everybody just busts out laughing. It was a lot of fun. But I lasted maybe another month and I quit. I was just being worn out by that class. So it was too much for a guy who, this young kid. I was concerned about my looks, want to be attractive to the women. And I was getting bruised and man, it wasn't a good look. So it's okay, I'm done. But it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that. Hope you enjoyed that story. It brings back a lot of good memories for me. But while we're on the subject, since I mentioned my dad, I don't know if the military does it nowadays, but they did back in the 60s and the 70s. But he was part of the amateur boxing circuit that was going on. My mom hated it because he'd come back all busted up and everything. Of course, he did it for the money, the extra income and all that. But I tell you, my dad could hit hard. I found that out one day when he was really ticked off with me. And that's another story for another day because I hadn't even done anything. He was misled to think I said something I shouldn't have said. But anyway, getting off track. He was an amateur boxer. He could hit so hard. I tell you what, when he boxed, he had the eye of the tiger, like in the Rocky movies talk about, right? He had the eye of the tiger. He had the heart of a lion when he was in that ring. But after that, the zoos would never let him back in. Got you with a dad joke. Yeah. All right. Anyway, I'll see you on the next one.
Florida's got some funny birds. Let's take a look at some of them. This bird would come by the burger joint and beg for food. He's missing part of his toe, poor fella. Now this pelican was so bold, it would walk around the people and even look in the buckets to see the fish they caught. I saw the sandhill crane while driving around. It was about 4 feet tall. Florida's got dino birds. Now here's a classy looking bird. I have no idea what it is. This one looks like it's wearing a crown or a headdress. Pretty cool, huh? Now that's a pretty bird. I just love the color. Now what the heck is this? Kind of looks like Florida's version of a platypus. Beware of vultures. All right, Florida. I don't even know what to call this one. Bird woman?
Okay, so serious question. What do you call a bear with no ears? Buh. Why do people breed chickens? Because. One of the surprising things I found out moving to Florida is alligators can actually grow 25 feet, but most of them only have 4. I was thinking the other day, I never had an epiphany. So today I told my psychiatrist I've been hearing voices. So what did he tell you? You don't have a psychiatrist. I'm looking forward to when I can start my summer diet because I like to have some of this, some of that, and some of that over there. I tell you what, man, people who need confirmation all the time, they are so annoying. Am I right? Yeah, am I right? You know I'm right. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I remember when I was young, I told my dad I had an imaginary girlfriend. He says, you can do better. I said, gee, thanks, Dad. And he says, no, I was talking to her. Do you know how cats like their steaks? Rare. Don't you hate it when people answer their own questions? I do. So finally made it up to the checkout, and I greeted the cashiers, and she looked at me and started scanning my order through. Frozen pizzas, sodas, chips. You must be single. I was a little surprised. I said, yeah, how'd you know? She says, because you're ugly. So I was at a cafe and I told the barista, I'll take your marvelous roast. So she says, you have very large ears. Wait, what?